Hey guys, welcome back to Exploring Park City Living. Today we're going to get into huge changes in the real estate market and what that means for you as a buyer and seller. Today we're going to be talking about how the Department of Justice sued the National Association of Realtors for collusion and price fixing and what that means for you. So, practical changes. As of the 17th of August, buyer agency commissions are no longer advertised on the MLS nationally. Buyers also cannot see a house without a buyer broker agreement signed with an agent. So, there's a lot of misunderstandings about this. So, let's dig into it and clear it up. So, background on the change. This was triggered by a class action lawsuit in Missouri accusing real estate brokerages of collusion and price fixing, like I was saying earlier. Traditionally, sellers' commissions covered both sellers and buyer agents' commissions through the MLS. And so, to give you a breakdown on it was really the structure of it. So, we got a house, which is the underlying asset for sale. And then we have the seller has the house. They have a exclusive right to sell agreement with the seller's brokerage. And then the seller say it's for 6 bananas. Say the seller's brokerage offers 3 bananas to the buyer brokerage that brings the buyer. And it was advertised on the MLS. And that also it being advertised another reason was steering. So like, oh, agents, they're not offering a certain amount. I'm not going to show that to my client. So that was also mixed in there. But anyways, structure: seller, seller's brokerage. Seller's brokerage offered a commission to the buyer brokerage, and based on that, what that was, the buyer's agent would get paid from the seller's brokerage to the buyer brokerage. So that's collusion and price fixing because it was an offering from brokerage to brokerage, and it wasn't clearly between buyer and seller. Okay, fair enough? Cool. So there's a lot of misinformation about this because this kind of got sprung up, and then people were trying to basically like, how do we band-aid this up and patch it together so it works like it used to? So that being said, we got a new real estate purchase contract. So this is for Utah specifically, and it has a new section. This cleared up a lot of things. Section 4.3E, seller and buyer agree that seller shall contribute blank percentage of the purchase price to buyer's brokerage. That was never in the real estate purchase contract, which is the main governing body between the buyer and the seller. So the fact that we have it in there now, like, almost alleviates a lot of concerns that I had that were up in the air. Like, there are other forms that, like Park City Board, I'm sure local boards, and then state forms that came out basically trying to like work around to create that structure that we had before. But I think all of that will get and eventually flushed out. Just like before the Rep C came out, there was a lot of people saying that will seller credits and will go towards buyer agency commission, and that's not what the DOJ wants. They want no price fixing. They want commissions to be negotiable and clearly outlined in the real estate purchase contract for the seller and the buyer to clearly see and have a say in. So, I mean, like, right there is a huge, like, I guess, clears up a lot. So, the National Association of Realtor requires a requirement is to ensure that the buyer understands the services that will be provided, how much they will cost, and what expectations are. And that is a huge reason why we're now having to have a buyer broker agreement signed before any and all showings, even if it's a video walkthrough, because they want to ensure that the buyer understands the services that will be provided, how much they will cost, and what the expectations are. We've always had this. Some states didn't have this form. So it's less of a change for us, which is super nice because we've been doing this for a while. But the fact that you have to have it signed before any showings now is a big change because a lot of people, like to show people a few houses to kind of get the feet wet and not have any pressure. And then, when you get either pre-approved or like show interest in actually moving forward, then you have that conversation about, hey, like we have to have a agreement signed. It's kind of nice that we have to have this signed up front and it's across the board. So now it's going to be like normal, which is great. Hard conversations up front. You know what you're getting into. I don't work for free, and this is how I get paid. And how you get paid is now going to be through the real estate purchase contract. So if the seller is not offering a commission to the buyer, then you put it in the real estate purchase contract and you bake it into the price. Like the buyer's agent commission has always been baked into the price. So having this agreement signed before you go and show properties is huge. The agreement also binds me as a realtor or any realtor that you're signing this with to act in your best interest, outlined in section 5.1 in the Utah buyer broker agreement, which includes loyalty, obedience, full disclosure, confidentiality, and reasonable care. So it's all in the best interest to have an agent from the start, legally binding to act in your best interest. So if you didn't have that signed in the beginning, they're not legally binded to act in your best interest. They probably are, but you're not legally binded, right? It's going to be upfront expectations on commission and that the buyer is responsible for their agent's commission. But most likely it will be baked into the price like it always has been. It's just going to be baked in a different way. So now instead of the seller's agent offering the buyer agent will now ask the seller directly through the real estate purchase contract that the buyer and seller both agree to. And that is the main way the contract clearly state the buyer's payment. So it's clear and transparent. Buyer and seller both see it, agree to it. And it's not like this overarching structure that goes around through the brokerages. And that is like kind of vague and not like clearly outlined. This becomes a problem is when you're not paying for a house in cash. Say a buyer is putting 20% down. So their money is working 5 to 1, right? With cash buyers, it's like the net's the same for the buyer and the seller. With the buyer that's using leverage, this comes into play more. So you're going to want the agency commission in the real estate purchase contract to then come out of the seller's proceeds like it always has been. So where that gets tricky is with multiple offers. It all comes down to the seller's net, right? Obviously. Like the seller's going to want to net the most and have the most fast and easy transaction, right? So maybe not the highest number is always not the best offer, but for all purposes here, let's just say the highest net is what the seller is looking for, because that in most cases is what the seller is looking for, given all offers are from a buyer that is able to close. So offering a higher price with the commission baked into the price versus a lower offer and the buyer chooses to pay their agent separately, it just comes down to the seller's net. So you can offer more and have it baked in so you don't have to come out of pocket because you're already coming out of pocket for the down payment and then closing costs. You can't come out of pocket anymore, right? Well, you bump up the purchase price a little bit, which reflects how prices are today anyways, and you net the seller the same as a lower offer that the person offering doesn't have the commission baked into the price and they're paying their agent separately. So that's what I hear a lot but what if it's we have to multiple offers and they don't they don't like the fact that you're getting paid certain amount of bananas. Well, depending on the offer, depending on the scenario, we're gonna have to come up in the offer. It's competitive. How do you get it done when you're in competition? You have a good agent. You have an agent that's able to craft an offer based on the needs of the situation and that has really good communication with the selling agent and is there every step of the way to guide you through how to get it done. Right there is all of the value that you need for a buyer's agent. But that is how they're going to get it done. So at the end of the day, it's honestly going to be more work trying to figure out where that is, but that's what you have an agent for. And for the most part, you're not going to have to come out of pocket for that because of having the option of going up and baking into the price. So, what does that mean for sellers? So, most sellers understand the value of a buyer's agent from their point of view. Having a vetted buyer, signed agreement, so the buyer is informed of the process, not to waste the seller's time, already had that hard conversation on how things work with their agent, having an agent that is experienced on getting deals done to the finish line so they know that they are not wasting time and having a smooth process. No one wants a nagging process, and having agents to do the nagging smooths it out for both sides for sure. And the nagging between agents is professional nagging. It's like we do this for a living and we know like what steps to take and like how to combat problems. Also, a buyer's agent is obligated to make aware of everything that they need to know about potential drawbacks, what they're buying, what the product is, does it align with the buyer? For example, I'm helping a buyer right now buy a home from somebody who bought it without an agent. And they put after they closed on it, they put hundreds of thousands of dollars into the home, into a brand new home. So they bought it in 2020. They put hundreds of $1,000 into the home to make it suitable for their family. And months after that happened, they realized that they weren't in the right school district. That's something easily could have been avoided with an agent. Now they have to go sell it and then go buy another property. They had to go buy another property in the school district that they wanted to be in and now sell this house that they customized to their wanting, not to the market. And I mean, they're coming out at net neutral, maybe a wash, maybe losing money. I don't know, it depends. But in a time where you could buy anything in 2020 and make money on it, that's a huge mistake. Or having a realtor would have prevented so easily. So, and in a scenario like that, an unrepresented buyer pissed off, who are they going to go after? They're going to go after the seller. So, seller with lawsuits saying, something wasn't disclosed or uh, not in good faith, et cetera, et cetera. Being unrepresented, having an unrepresented buyer opens a can of worms for a seller as far as liabilities, uncertainties, as well as saving time and headache. Like I was saying earlier, having a professional rep both sides, especially given how much emotions are tied up in with buying and selling the process, the biggest asset that you might own. Sellers are going to understand the value of a buyer agent and having it baked into the price. I don't think is going to be much of a difference. So there will be different hurdles to jump and, problems to solve with a new landscape, obviously. But I hope this cleared up a lot. At the end of the day, we're just moving compensation being advertised on the MLS broker to broker to having it in the real estate purchase contract and having the seller and buyer both okay it and have it in front of them clearly explained and negotiable. So if you're in and around Park City area, Heber, Camas, Park City, Hideout, or the East Bench of Salt Lake, please message me. And if you're a seller there, I have a unique offer for you. So hit me up. I'd love to tell you about that, especially given this time. This is definitely a good time to capitalize on this offer. So if there's anything else that you want clarified, please leave a comment. And if this gave you value, like, subscribe. I'm coming out with content all the time about local stuff as well as, national news just like this, but how it affects you in your local market. See you guys. Thank you.